want to thank everyone for coming, and thank you for your interest in this important case. My name is Lisa Kirkpatrick, and I'm the Acting United States Attorney for the District of Minnesota. It is my privilege to announce the guilty verdicts in the case of United States versus Aimee Bock and Salim Said. Today, after 6 weeks of trial, the jury delivered a quick and unequivocal verdict. Guilty on every single count. As you know, Aimee Bock masterminded a $250 million fraud scheme. It was the largest COVID fraud scheme in the country. And what Bock and her co-defendants did was reprehensible. During COVID, while so many were trying to be helpers, Bock and Said were thieves. They used a time of crisis as their golden opportunity to enrich themselves and their criminal partners. Outlandishly so. And every step of the way, Bock fought to keep her fraud scheme going. Today, her efforts to lie, to blame others, to escape responsibility, all came to an end. At the conclusion of today's hearing, Judge Nancy Brazel took both Said and Bock into custody, and we look forward to sentencing. I want to highlight the team in front of you. Our team from the U.S. Attorney's Office, the AUSAs, the paralegals, and support team members, and the special agents and forensic accountants from the FBI, the U.S. Postal Inspection Service, and the IRS. This extraordinary team has worked for literal years, around the clock, to bring this vile scheme to an end. To indict not 1, 2, or 10, but 70 defendants. To bring to trial those cases in the face of truly extraordinary hurdles, including the attempted bribery of a juror in the first Feeding Our Future trial, and the attempted witness tampering we saw during this trial. It's unprecedented. And I will make this point. This is your U.S. Attorney's Office, your federal agencies at work for you, the people of Minnesota. I am extraordinarily privileged to lead this office, an office that I have been a part of for over 20 years. The U.S. Attorney's Office can do extraordinary things for Minnesota, and this case is a prime example of that. We are here to serve you and protect this state and the people of this state always. And with that, I want to introduce the lead prosecutor in this case, Joe Thompson.
Thank you, Lisa. Good afternoon. My name is Joe Thompson. I'm the chief of the Fraud and Public Corruption section, and I've had the privilege of leading this incredible team of federal prosecutors, federal agents, and forensic accountants from the FBI, the IRS, and the Postal Inspection Service. This has been a long road. In 2021, a forensic accountant from the FBI, Pauline Rose, came to me and said she had something for me to look at. What she showed me was staggering. A monumental fraud that was being perpetrated on our state, something like nothing I'd ever seen before, a brazen and corrupt scheme to take advantage of a program designed to feed needy children. A scheme that took advantage of a global pandemic. A scheme that turned out to be the single largest COVID-19 fraud case in the entire United States of America. Now, Minnesota has long been a state known for its good governance and its civic-mindedness. A state renowned nationally for its high quality of life and its low crime. Sadly, in recent years, that reputation has changed. All too often, our state has been known for fraud. And the Feeding Our Future case has come to symbolize the problem of fraud in our state. It has become the shame of Minnesota. Hopefully, today's verdict will help turn the page on this awful chapter in our state's history. The state that is our home, that has so much to offer and that deserves so much better. I want to thank the team that have devoted months and years of their lives to this case, this trial, the last trial, and all the other cases, 70 defendants so far. And I want to thank the jury for their verdict and their careful attention to this case over the past 7 weeks. Thank you.
Can you take any questions, Joe?
Yes.
You've got more than 30 defendants who are still hanging out there in the wind. Do you think that this verdict will encourage more plea deals in the coming days and weeks?
Well, that's up to them, but I would imagine that the quick verdict, it will probably not go unnoticed by the remaining defendants in this case.
Mr. Thompson, can you please describe the strategy to prove what Bock knew?
Well, the jury saw overwhelming evidence of what Bock knew. She was at the head of the scheme from day one. She signed, as my colleagues described in closing argument yesterday, she signed every single fraudulent claim that was submitted to the state of Minnesota. It was done so by Aimee Bock. She cut every single check, all $240 million worth of checks to every defendant in this case. She was involved in taking kickbacks. Witness after witness testified to her role in the scheme. And of course, she was the one, as the jury heard, who took the lead in fending off the State Department of Education and other inquiries trying to slow down and stop the fraud.
Are you done charging new defendants in this case?
We're never done investigating.
Did you find it unusual if the jury reached a verdict this quickly, and what does that say about her case?
Well, the juries take their job seriously. That's one thing I've learned. It's not a race. I think all I can say is the fact that they returned a verdict so quickly after such a long trial, I think speaks volumes as to the job the team did, and frankly, the amount of evidence against the defendants and how awful their fraud scheme was.
Joe, can you say at this point what sentence you might be seeking for either or both of the defendants?
No, we can't. As the judge explained, there'll be a pretrial or a pre-sentence investigation report completed, and after that, there'll be a range, and ultimately, they'll have rounds of sentencing briefing, and the judge will decide. Bill.
Mr. Thompson, by my count, there are still 5 defendants who are fugitives from justice, international fugitives from justice. Are you continuing efforts to bring them home?
Yes, we're always trying to bring people home. Obviously, depending on what country people are fugitives in, we have different tools, and often those tools aren't public, and so I can't comment on them publicly. But they remain under indictment, and we will seek to bring them to justice when and if we can. Yes.
Just to follow up on a former question, are you anticipating more people to be charged in the case?
Yes, our investigation is ongoing.
The jury saw 4 weeks of lots of paperwork. This was a document-heavy case and testimony. Of all of that, what do you think were the top things that maybe resonated with the jury to prove guilt?
Well, I think
There's so much.
I think you'd have to ask the jury that, but obviously in any case where the defendant testifies, that's a key part of it, and both defendants testified at length, and clearly the jury didn't find them credible and didn't believe their stories. But beyond that, all the evidence was important, I think.
Do you feel like that was the turning point?
I felt good about our case from day one.
What's your board members that you guys had testify who were all stunned that they were serving on board, much less in the capacity as president, treasurer, and secretary? It seemed to really resonate with the jury, and it seemed to be a case of the jury deciding whether those 3 people were telling the truth or Aimee Bock was telling the truth when she said they actually had active oversight roles of this nonprofit she ran. Do you think that their testimony, even though it wasn't central to the scheme itself, was critical to these verdicts today?
I think it was certainly compelling testimony, as highlighted by my colleagues in closing arguments yesterday. The testimony from the reported board members could not have been more clear. One of them learned he was on the board of directors when a New York Times reporter showed up at his door after the investigation became public. The fact that there was fake board minutes, forged signatures, obviously that was emblematic of the entire case.
What's your latest estimate on how much has been recovered through the civil process and forfeiture of the $250 million?
About $60 million to date.
Did you already say what's the max sentences that these 2 could face from today?
Well, the wire fraud counts each carry a 20-year maximum sentence. Obviously, they stack up, so the maximum potential sentence is in the hundreds of years. Obviously, the sentencing guidelines likely won't be that high, but they're facing significant sentences, as Judge Brazel indicated just moments ago.
And you have more defendants lined up to begin trial soon, right?
Yes, we have a trial in a few weeks with 2 of the co-defendants in this case.
Joe, what kind of message does it send to Minnesotans who are normally pretty open-handed in helping out their neighbors, helping out people from foreign countries? Are you worried about the stifling of, does it send a message to people to be aware of who you are dealing with?
Well, look, these defendants committed a fraud. These defendants did, not their communities. These defendants chose to commit fraud. They're being held responsible for their actions. I think, obviously, our state, there's been some self-reflection as a state about how we run these programs in terms of, we hold these defendants responsible for their actions. That's what we do in cases as prosecutors.
One more question?
What effect has it had, when this was announced in 2022, there was one U.S. attorney standing here. Now, the administration hasn't picked a new one. So can you just talk about, I guess, what's it like behind the scenes when you guys are all just kind of doing this, and what impact does that have, if any?
Well, good leadership matters, obviously, but we're all professionals, like civil servants throughout the federal government and elsewhere. We do our jobs every day, regardless of who's sitting in the White House or sitting in the U.S. Attorney position. We're all career public servants. And so regardless of who the U.S. Attorney is and who he or she is appointed by, we do our job. We've spanned now several U.S. attorneys and acting U.S. attorneys in this investigation. Obviously, we're very happy for Lisa Kirkpatrick, who's a wonderful acting United States attorney. We'll be excited to get a new United States attorney at some point. But in the meantime, we'll carry on our job like everyone else throughout the Department of Justice.
You're going to tell Elon Musk what you did this week?
Every Monday.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for coming.
This would be something pretty significant to tell them about.
It's just one bullet point.
Okay, we're listening live to a news conference by the U.S. Attorney's Office as they take a victory lap here in the Feeding Our Future fraud trial.